thank you so much for saying yes to this. I'm so excited.
You are so welcome. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. So really what I want the audience to connect in with, anyone who's watching, the reason I reached out to you to be part of this is a passion of mine is life purpose. Everybody being on the right path. And I know that that's a passion that we share.
Yes, it is.
And you've helped me in our mentoring sessions bravely step on to doing more in my business and empowering people and around the life purpose. So I remember that, and I know that that's a gift that you have that you can share with others. So what I wanted to look at is, this is focusing on you and your journey and how it has evolved. And really the aim is to empower others who are watching to take some brave steps themselves. So what was life like for you before you discovered your higher self in the world of guides and angels?
Okay, so for me personally, I was a very timid person, very shy. I had not very much confidence in myself at all, very low self-esteem. I used to work a lot with negative self-talk, and and basically life was a bit of a challenge, and that affected me in all different life areas. So in my relationships, in running a business, in working, in my family relationships, it really affected me across the board. And so part of my journey into finding myself and my own self-healing came about through physical illness, which I think is the case for a lot of people. We get sick and we don't really understand why we're sick. And then we go and get diagnosed, and the doctors really don't know what to do with us. In my particular case, it was food intolerances and a gluten intolerance that just surfaced from nowhere. And I started to explore other possibilities of how I could work with that, how I could heal that myself. And through that came my own journey of self-healing, which was really interesting, and a growth that has expanded me beyond anything I thought possible. When I look at myself sort of 15 years ago, I see a completely different person, a person who really didn't want to step into the world, who was a bit afraid, who never spoke their truth, who continuously worried about what other people thought of me. And I'm still on that journey to certain degrees, as we all are, but at this point in my life, I can honestly say that I've overcome a lot of those personal issues that I had.
That's phenomenal, and I think that is something that we see a lot of people struggle with. And I love that you mentioned that. I'm not happy that you had to go through it, but the whole physical, how it shows up in your body, because I think a lot of people will recognize themselves in that, with a condition that nobody knows how to help them, and yet it's a symptom of something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And when at that time, sort of 15 years ago, gluten intolerance wasn't really as well known as it is these days, and I'd certainly never heard of it. And it just didn't make sense to me that I was told, basically that I had something that had just come out of nowhere for no particular reason in my life, and that made no sense to me at all. And through a healing session that I had, I realized that it was strongly connected to issues that I was holding in my emotional body. Wow. And of course, healing those issues at the emotional level, I began to heal the food intolerance itself. So it opened up this whole door of opportunity of understanding myself and my body much better and much more clearly, and to absolutely empower myself through my own self-healing process.
And that's beautiful. I'm going to fast forward then, because we've gone a step back in time as to who you were. Who are you now? What's life like for you now?
Well, life's very different now because I feel confident. I found my voice. I understand my strengths, and I acknowledge my strengths, and I work with my strengths. And it's not an ego thing. I don't, it's just that I acknowledge who I am at soul level. I've connected with who I am at soul level, and I've created, through my own awareness of self, a business now which I'm passionate about and which helps me help other people on that same journey. And so I see now a very different person, but really all I've done is reawaken myself to who I really am.
Yeah, and step with courage onto that path to shine your light.
Absolutely, because whilst we talk about it in those terms, it isn't always an easy journey. And, you know, any kind of self-healing process that you do is going to take you out of your comfort zone. It's going to stretch you. And it is about those leaps of faith and trust that we find within ourselves to change something. Because otherwise we will just continue on the same path that we're on. We have to actually change something to move forward.
Absolutely, I fully agree. And I think as you go through that transformation, then you start to own who you are a lot more.
Absolutely.
And another shared passion of ours is the Akashic space and the whole Akashic records. Now, I'm conscious that some people watching may never have even heard of that before. So can you share a bit about that magical place?
Okay, well, an Akashic record, or your Akashic record, is your unique personal energetic blueprint, if you like. It holds all of the information about you from this incarnation, from previous incarnations, all the thoughts, all the feelings, all the emotions, all the experiences that you have. And it is your own unique energetic perception or record of who you are. And we all hold these, of course, within ourselves. And so accessing your Akashic record, or as I do, other people's Akashic records, really helps you to identify that person's truth, to get to who they really are at soul level and be able to connect them into that true sense of themselves so that they can then work with that at the conscious level.
Okay, so what's some examples of stuff that people find when they explore this space, and where is it?
Well, we tend to think of the Akashic records as this great big library that's out in the universe somewhere that we have access to. And for a lot of people, it works to have that perception because it's a visual way that we can connect to it. But actually, your Akashic record is held within you, and generally in your heart center, in your heart space at soul level. You hold it at the very center of who you are. And, you know, some examples of healing on that is really when you go into an Akashic record and you look at previous lifetimes and previous incarnations, and you look at the choices that we have made in those lifetimes that have gone against what we really are. They then cause an energetic blockage within our auric field, our energy field, that stays with us when we pass over in that lifetime, and then we carry it through into subsequent incarnations.
Right.
And so go into the Akashic record, you can identify very easily where the root cause of an energy blockage is, and the circumstances, the choices that you made to create that. And having that knowledge and that understanding of the choices that you made in that lifetime really starts that healing process of being able to release it and work with it and know that you no longer need to hold that energy in this lifetime. It may have served you very well in a previous incarnation, in a previous experience that you were having, but you don't necessarily need it in this lifetime now. And then so releasing that and working to release that really helps to heal.
That's brilliant. And then I imagine, throwing that baggage per se over, setting yourself free of that is obviously quite liberating and makes it easier for you to step onto your path in this life. Is that right?
Absolutely, because when you can identify, for instance, that you have been holding on to something in your, let's say, your solar plexus chakra, which is your personal power center. These blocks that we hold generally affect us at different chakras. They they affect us in our emotional or our mental body, and they generally run programs. And they have an energetic statement attached to them. So if you have, if you're holding energy in your solar plexus chakra that relates to the energy of self-doubt, say, and it was created through some choices you made in a lifetime that allowed you to feel very doubtful of your abilities or who you are as a person, that energy is still affecting you at your solar plexus. It's very difficult for you in this lifetime, in this incarnation, to move through issues that concern you, that keep arising for you, that are associated with self-doubt. And so you may find that you heal and you have clearings and you do all this work on yourself, but that feeling of self-doubt never leaves you. And so when you go into the Akashic records and you clear it at the root cause of where it started, it helps you then to move forward. You find that you are then able now in this lifetime to really make changes around self-doubt and move forward feeling more confident in yourself.
That's beautiful, and to have that. And what we've spoken as well also about all the different clair abilities, the different intuitive senses that people have. And you and I are quite similar in that I just assumed to have intuition and intuitive abilities, it had to be clairvoyance, which held me back from stepping onto that. And I know that that's not the case. The claircognizance, the sense of thought, is my strongest, with a few others as kind of backup. So what intuitive sense have you discovered within you, and how did you discover it?
Okay, well, I mean, I was on my path of learning for a good couple of years and was struggling to see things or hear things. I had, like you, I had this perception I had to see something or I would hear something, because we talk a lot about in the spiritual development community about seeing and hearing. And I kept thinking, I just can't do this. It's, I haven't got any intuition at all. And then I read, or somebody said the word clairsentience to me. And I didn't know what it was. And I was too shy at that point to actually put my hand up and say, what does that mean? Right. So I went home, Googled it, as a lot of us do, and realized that it meant clear feeling. And it was just as if someone had switched on a light bulb in my head. And I realized that that's how I gain my intuitive information, through feeling. And so it was just the most wonderful part of my own journey to be able to understand and connect into my clairsentience and be able to work with it consciously. And I realized that I was so busy trying to see and so busy trying to hear, I was missing all the subtle signs in my body of the feelings and the sensations that accompanied my intuitive guidance. So, like you, I'm so passionate now about igniting in other people, really finding out where naturally they are designed to receive that kind of information. And some people are primarily clairvoyant and then secondarily clairsentient, and those two work together, so they will see and then they'll feel something around that. And when you know this about yourself, it makes your path towards connecting to your intuition so much more easy. And a lot less easier than mine was, that's for sure.
And that's the thing. That's my purpose for doing this event, is to save people some of the heartache that I had to go through, and allow you to discover it a bit quicker. Mine is now the claircognizance and then the clairsentience, which is, mine's good old-fashioned goosebumps all over my body, and I know that that's a sign of whatever I'm thinking about is true and needs further exploration. So it's great, to know that. And ironically, once I let go of the stress and worry of needing to see, now I see more, but I see it in my mind, like I see it like a movie or like a picture or anything like that.
And I think for a lot of us, as we develop our intuition, it is a combination of all of those different clair abilities. There's 4 that we primarily work with that are most commonly found naturally within ourselves. And as we develop and grow, of course, we expand that, and we start to work with them all. But for me, the courses that I teach, it's really helping people identify their primary and their secondary ones that they're naturally disposed to, so that they can start to develop more quickly and then develop the other ones as and when they choose to.
Yes, and that's perfect. And then, so when we met, it was in the mentoring capacity. I was seeking out, a strong business and spiritual mentor to help me with growth, and mentoring for you is important. Can you share your own experiences with mentoring and why you think it's of value for people?
Well, absolutely. My own experiences are that I have been really fortunate in my own journey to find really beautiful people to work with that I could resonate with and identify with, who really helped me understand my own personal journey. Because whilst we're all wanting to develop our intuition, and I assume people that are listening to your interviews will, they all have a wish or a desire to expand their intuitive abilities. We all do it in a unique and different way, of course. We all have our own unique pattern. And so for me, it was about finding the right people to help me, people that really talked the things that I wanted to hear, that shared the things that I wanted to know about, but that made sense to me, because I'm a very practical, grounded person, and I like tools to work with that are very practical and very grounded and just make sense to me, rather than anything that's too floaty and airy-fairy, because I can't get my head around that too much. And so for me, that was a really valuable part of my journey. And then when I started to step on that teaching journey myself, I became quite passionate then about helping people find themselves and find their truth and find their own unique way of developing their intuition. And that's really where the mentoring sessions or the soul coaching sessions developed from. And so I work now with people who are either on their own personal journey and are looking to develop their own intuitive abilities in the best possible way they can. And I also work with people who are running or setting up a business in the spiritual development field, who want to integrate their intuitive abilities into their other modalities and start to combine them and work with them at the conscious level. So those are the 2 main areas where I really work with that.
And that's really exciting to see people flourish, and to see them grow with confidence along. For you, what's been the highlights of watching people in that mentoring experience? What have been the highlights for you, or the growth that you've seen in some of the people you've supported?
Okay, so one of the things that really fills me with the most joy is seeing people make their first connections, when they first connect to their own guidance, when they first get that realization, or they get some validation back from somebody that what they've told them is right, and they start to really believe in their own personal connection. So that's definitely a highlight. Also, just seeing the self-empowerment that comes about through your own inner growth, because the 2 run side by side, really. You can't develop your intuition without becoming more aware of who you are as a person. I think they're so enmeshed with each other, those 2 journeys, that actually watching people change and grow and become more their own truth, more their own person, the person that they really are. That, I think, is probably the most rewarding part of my journey. And, it's always sad when people move on from the soul coaching sessions that we have. but at the same time, it's kind of like watching somebody go out into the world and be who they're meant to be. So it's just such a lovely process. I just love it.
I totally relate to all that. It's beautiful. So I suppose to wrap up, we talk about the soul purpose, and what we're here to do. And for someone who's watching, what are the top 3 tips that you could give someone who is looking to explore their purpose a bit more? What are the things, some of it you've mentioned, but what are the top 3 things you'd suggest to somebody?
I think the first thing is to really become very aware of your truth, who you are. Find ways or people that can show you who you really are, so that you know what you're working with. You can identify your gifts, where your soul is centered, the energy that your soul is centered in. So when you know what you're innately designed to do or be as a person, as a soul, you can really start to work with that energy. When you don't know what that is, of course, you can find yourself doing a lot of things that don't bring you much joy. You make probably bad choices for yourself, but when you are really sure about where your energy is centered, you can start to change your life in really, really good ways. So I think that's one thing. Definitely finding good teachers or good mentors, people that really you identify with, that when they speak, when you listen to them, they make sense to you, and you know that they're sharing information that you can work with yourself, because sometimes we can get a bit caught up in things that aren't true for us. And we all have our own truth, of course, so finding somebody you can really identify with, I think, is another important step. And then the third thing I would say is have fun. Exploring your intuition, developing your intuitive gifts. It's meant to be joyful, it's meant to be fun. And whilst the journey itself can sometimes be a bit hard as we push, to make